He had it on there, and what he said was pretty interesting, because there's different parts of different ages that humans have gone through. The agricultural age, where we mainly work with farming and hunter-gatherer type of societies, that type of thing. And then the industrial age, you know, where we were coming up with factories and stuff. And then previously, or maybe we're still in it now, I'm not so sure, or maybe we're just like in between, we had the information age, yeah? And now we're moving on to the conceptual age, or the creative age. So, I know I kind of I answered the question already on the bottom there. But yeah, so what Daniel Pink was saying is saying that we're now in the creative age, and that's what's gonna be like. That's what the working world is gonna value in the future, is creativity. And in his book, basically, I don't know if you saw the cover of it just now. It says basically why right brain thinkers will rule the world in the future.
Can I try to? I want to see if people can pick up on this a little bit. And I'm not sure, because I haven't read this book either.
Yeah,
I would certainly like to read it. But I'm thinking, and I want to see if anybody can track this a little bit. Why would he make a distinction between, a lot of people would probably still say we're in a knowledge society, we're in an information society. Why would you think that and that the answer has to do with the nature of computing and the internet, so I'll give you that much as sort of a background hint. But why would he make a distinction between information, knowledge age, and the knowledge society, and the creative age? Why would that distinction? Go ahead, please.
I say that there's so many kind of virtual worlds out there on the computer these days that people can engage with.
Okay.
It's much more conceptual than it's not tangible.
Right. And why, I agree with what he said, and I would kind of like to follow, and I hope you don't mind, I'm just trying to extend here a little bit.
Yeah.
But why would it not be involving knowledge so much then? I agree with what you just said, that conceptualization is important because we also have virtual worlds. We have literally, worlds that are out there now, and Facebook is a world in itself. It really is. Things you can do with like Google Docs. Those are almost worlds unto themselves. They're conceptual worlds. They are conceptual worlds. So I agree with that. Go ahead, please.
So we can leave a knowledge base for the computers to store, maybe to even use, and we just think how to use it, how to manipulate it.
Right. Doesn't that make sense? Is that I think even 5 or 10 years ago, probably, I don't know when this book was written, but I'm guessing that even 5 or 10 years ago, it wouldn't have been possible to make that kind of distinction that Ben just made. Okay? And that Martin just made. But go ahead, repeat it then, because he didn't hear it. Some people didn't hear it.
I was just thinking that because computers are getting more powerful, we can store the knowledge on the computers, even use the computers to do it.
He says something like that. I read the excerpt. He says something similar to that.
So, you see, what's happening is, now, we have to be careful how we characterize this, because this is not true all over the world yet. We have a huge have and have-not situation in terms of digital knowledge. There are billions of people, literally, in the world that don't have access to this. However, the cost is lowering, it's becoming less and less and less, and I think that situation is changing and will continue to change. But given that we leave that aside for the moment and talk about the wide access that people do have, I think that Ben's point is spot on, because what we're dealing with now is we're going beyond just the ability to get information, because anybody can get it. Yeah. I can go on to EBSCO host, provided I've got an access key, and pick up 100 articles on motivation and learning, just like Gina can, and Evan can, and Sister can, and Chia can, and so on. Everybody can do it. But who can take that material and do what Ben and Martin were talking about? Make it into something that is digestible and usable for other people. And that requires creativity. That's what I think his point is.
Yeah, I think that was, he touches on that, because I haven't read the book. I've only read the introduction of it, the excerpt. And he basically says that, we have so much wealth of knowledge and access to it that we have to kind of put it together now and make something new out of it. And that's what's going to be like in the working world in the future. So yeah, you can just skip this,
Can I'm sorry, I don't want to take away from the presentation, but I can just add one more point. I think we have to, this is sort of important for us as teachers, we have to be very careful that we understand the distinction that Martin and Ben just made for us in teaching too. Because a lot of the time, and I even see it with teachers in my school, they're pretty good teachers. So I'm not talking about, you know, I'm talking about people that are actually good at the profession. But we get into this idea of technology for technology's sake, and just have look at all this information, look at all this material. And that's not the point, folks. It's what are you going to do with it? And sometimes less technology might bring more results, depending on who you're working with and what the level of the students are. So we have to be very careful. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And yeah, basically that. Yeah, we have so much knowledge that technology for technology's sake is what's the point, really? You know, and so we have to make something of it. And so he was saying that you know, the right brain is the more artistic side of our brain, and the left brain is the logical side. And I thought this picture was cool because you can see the guy's brain, and the left brain is like all cubicles, and the right brain people are like in the apartment. So yeah. Okay. If you didn't catch the thing, just now it basically said to survive in the creative age, individuals should have, in the book, Daniel Pink, what he says is that you should have individuals should have an aptitude for these 6 senses, and they are design, story, symphony, empathy, play, and meaning. Okay, I'm gonna read just some of it, just short explanations of each of these. Okay, so basically in design, not just function. What he means is that basically what we've been talking about. Today, he says, Daniel Pink says, today it's economically crucial and personally rewarding to create something that's so beautiful, whimsical, or emotionally engaging. Oh, sorry, I'm going to read the sentence before that, sorry. It's no longer sufficient to create a product as a service, an experience, or a lifestyle that's merely functional. Today it's economically crucial and personally rewarding to create something that's so beautiful, whimsical, or emotionally engaging. Yeah? So I thought of that, you know, I thought of the Mac advertisements where, you know, hi, I'm a Mac, and hey, I'm a PC, type of thing. Why would somebody buy one or the other? It's because of the design, and yeah, so I relate to that. Second, story, not just argument. Okay. He says the essence of persuasion, communication, and self-understanding has become the ability also to fashion a compelling narrative. So not just having information, but how do we use that information to form something that in a narrative. Okay? Not just focus, but also symphony. Seeing the big picture, crossing boundaries, and being able to combine disparate pieces into arresting new whole. Empathy, not just logic. What will distinguish those, what he says under that, what will distinguish those who thrive will be their ability to understand what makes their fellow woman or man tick, to forge relationships and care for others. And fifth, play. He says ample evidence points to the enormous health and professional benefits of laughter, lightheartedness, games, and humor. So basically in the future, in the creative age, shouldn't always just be serious, but play should be involved as well. And sixth, meaning. Of course, we have all this stuff. We want to put meaning to it. We have to have a purpose. We want to put meaning to the information we have. So, yeah.
It's interesting on one play. I have 2 sons. My 4-year-old, you guys already know that. I've probably talked to him about 100 times already. But my 4-year-old has a little bit of a problem sometimes dealing with people socially, and his speech is a little bit delayed. And what I consider the play one, you know, it's interesting to watch, because even if the teachers or his mom or his auntie who looks after him, you know, she's kind of like works with us, she stays in the house with us. And sometimes they're trying to explain something to them, and even if they're calm and they just try to kind of sit down and try to explain it to them, and I have a slightly different approach. I'll go up and do something stupid. You know, I'll just tickle him, or I'll pick him up and I'll let him put on my head. You know, he likes that. Put him on my head, and I'll just kind of go like that, so he shakes a little bit, and he starts laughing, right? And then I'll put him down, and while he's laughing, I explain to him what it is that he needs to change in his behavior. And it's almost 100%. He almost always just does what I ask him to do. You know, it's interesting, and then it's like they say there, it's like, but it really works. It's kind of, it depends on the student. You know, there's students that you wouldn't work with, but depending on the kid. And I like those. Can we go back to that?
Yeah, sure.
There's a real paradigm shift there. I don't know if you guys picked it up, but Look at some of these. Story, not argument. You know, give a prime example. Can anybody give me an example of that where we should be using story instead of argument? And we use argument a lot when we create problems, and we have even violence, even killing, over something that should never, ever lead to violence or killing. What is it? Anybody have an idea what I'm thinking of? And really, these are just stories, different stories about reality, if you think about it. No?
Religion.
Right, religion. Religion, always it's the same thing. You know, how are we here? Why are we here? How did we get here? Those are stories about creation, aren't they? They're stories about where we came from. And instead of looking at the stories, we're looking at, this is right, everything else is wrong, so let's start killing each other. It's really insane if you think about it. And just by changing that paradigm, if we could get that shift, to get people to think differently about it, I can realize, hey, it's a different story about, you know, the Jew isn't good and the Muslim bad, or the Muslim isn't good and the Jew bad, or the Christian isn't right and the Buddhist wrong. It's just a different story about how we got here and why we're here. If we thought about things like that, we'd probably do a lot less killing and arguing. You know? But anyway, I was watching that and I'm like, wow, it's a real interesting shift.
And just to support the book, this is another article I read. According to IBM, the 2010 Global CEO Study, CEO stated that more than rigor, management discipline, integrity, or even vision, successfully navigating an increasingly complex world will require creativity. So just to support that. So you can see this thinking outside the box is difficult for some people. Keep trying. So how do we encourage creativity in our classrooms? Now, there was a research